begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the June 27th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. My name is Shelley Bueller, and I have the pleasure of serving this fine county alongside Commissioner Kevin Cook and Commissioner Bob Archer. So welcome.
Good morning.
Madam Clerk, first item, please.
First item is item 3, consent agenda.
Is there a motion or questions on the consent agenda?
I would move for approval of the consent agenda.
There's a motion by Commissioner Cook,
I'll second that motion.
second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0.
Item 4, new business A, County Clerk. Number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Madam Chair, we have one set of vouchers this morning dated June 26, 2013, in the amount of $3,422,690.71. And I've asked Audit Finance, we had a large allocation of $1,390,000. I've asked Audit Finance to make a brief presentation on what's included in that amount. And also, we had a general expense for $120,000 for American Pre-Sort, and I'd also like Audit Finance to discuss that expenditure. So
What was the first expenditure? Which
it was allocations, the 1.39 million.
Well, I'm going to start with the American Pre-Sort, the $120,000 one. I'm sorry, Simon Martinez, Audit Finance. Well, that $120,000 from American Pre-Sort is just, our prepaid postage that we give to American Pre-Sort. They send us an email usually when we get low on the account. They just sent us one June 4th and said we had about $25,000 left. So we just fund it with we usually do about $120,000, which lasts about 3 months. And so we put that out there. Not a set time frame, but this amount is set usually about $120,000. So that's what that one is.
Okay, and I understand that we used to do our mailing in-house, but we looked at American Pre-Sort as an efficiency measure, and we save money by using it.
So, yeah, and then we keep track of the mail that's by certain departments, health agency, refuse, and motor vehicle, and keep track of that. And there's a allocation that we do a kind of a cost allocation that we do to help get those costs out to other departments. So. And on the allocations portion, at budget time, we set forth an amount that we give to various agencies, like AMR, Helping Hands, Community Resources Council, Conservation District. Now, that's kind of what these are. These are the allocations that we've set forth for 2013. We break those into 4 quarterly payments, and so that's what you're seeing there. Some of them are direct to the agency itself, like AMR and Helping Hands, but some of them are like service programs for the elderly and social service grants. So those pots of money are allocated by the commission, but there's another council or another board that kind of determines where that funding goes. Or like service programs for the elderly, there's another agency that kind of determines who gets each portion. So
right.
we see some of those in there as well.
And that's part of the budget process
That's
that
what-
we will be getting into, and it's
Right.
typically paid on a quarterly basis.
Yeah, typically paid on a quarterly basis.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers.
Okay, there's a motion. Do you have a
I will
question?
second, but I do have a question about the
Okay.
budget. It's for Parks and Recreation. It's voucher V010181, an amount of $2,560 to Auto Sound Incorporated. Commissioners, this is a bill for the Blaisdell Pool. My concern with the bill is that at the top of the Auto Sound invoice, it indicates that it was created on April the 19th of 2013. However, on the second page, it appears that it's wrote down that the bid was taken on April the 22nd, and I'm just wondering how we would have an invoice created before we called in the bid.
Commissioners, John Knight, Parks and Recreation. Terry Bertles, Parks Director, was able to get a hold of Dave McIntyre, the person who's in charge of that. I want to, I can't provide you a direct quote. I'll just provide you what he said and kind of paraphrase it. There's no way in heck that I did not get all of those bids in. I don't know if he filled out the form incorrectly, if he filled out the form after the bids came in, but he said his first two calls were the two highest bid ones, the third one was the lowest bid, and all three bids were received before any order was made. I don't see Dave walk in here, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't sometime. So it's a matter of clerical error of writing the form.
Or a possibility of the invoice date being wrong. I mean, that's a possibility as well.
Correct. Parks and Rec's not the only one that makes mistakes. Sometimes other places do.
And Mr. Knight, the only problem I have with that explanation is your second bid is from SciTech Media, which is dated April 29th.
Mhm.
So if,
Like I said, there is that could have been filled out when the work was done. That could have been filled out anytime. I don't know what Auto Sounds is. I stand by Dave McIntyre, who says he got all three bids before he ordered it, and I'll stand behind him.
I would ask that you maybe talk with our audit finance director, or have your departments, maybe have the audit finance director come out and talk with your department heads or community directors, just so that they know what exactly the policy is, and so making sure that we are following the right policy with the county.
Yeah, that would have been my first reaction too. Although and we certainly can do that as a safety measure. But after hearing the explanation that we got from Dave, he did know the policy and followed it correctly. Whether we filled the form out incorrectly or they filled the invoice out incorrectly, I don't know.
Further questions?
I don't have any further questions.
Okay. There is a motion by Commissioner Archer to approve the voucher payments, a second by Commissioner Cook. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
Move approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor of the motion say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0.
Item B, District Court, number 1, consider approval of request to award bid to McElroy's Inc. for the replacement of a computer room air conditioner unit at a cost of $44,800.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kathy Linhart, Court Administration.
Good morning, Kathy.
We were disappointed to find the bids quite this high. We'd hoped to stretch that $60,000 to the rest of the project, but this is definitely the most important piece of the project. I have Stephanie Teal, our IT Director, here this morning. If you have any specific questions, she's probably a better source of information, but do you have questions?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I understand that and this came before the commission earlier when we discussed having it go out to bid. Since that time, I know that there's been some discussions with the Information Technology Department about the virtual network proposal that's on the agenda for later today. If the county were to proceed with the virtual network platform, and I'm probably mixing the words up, but the virtualization project.
We understand you. We are part of those discussions.
There had been some consideration or some discussion that we might be able to incorporate in the district court into that virtual network. And I just don't know. I mean, obviously, information technology hasn't come before. We haven't taken a consideration of that. But I don't, if we were to do this, would we need to spend the $44,000 if we were able to incorporate district court into?
In discussions with Pat Oblander, for one thing, the timeline on this is going to stretch out a ways, and we've got a huge project that we've got to accomplish before we can even begin to think about committing to the project if we're lucky enough to go forward with it. I think we would still need this because the one that's there is in terrible condition. We've known for several years. It's why we came in the end of last year and encumbered that $60,000. And in talking with both Stephanie and Pat, we're going to need a server space no matter what, because we have to have the ability to do testing on things and have servers for that purpose. There are some things that just won't be able to be moved into the virtualization project if we went that direction. So I really do believe we would still need an air conditioning unit in that space that works effectively.
But this unit could be moved. The air
It could be. I
be.
think the problem with moving it in my discussions with the IT people is And Pat confirmed that too, that
Okay.
the installation is probably the biggest. If you note on the bids, the installation is the biggest part. The unit itself, yes, probably could be repurposed somewhere.
Okay.
There would be some costs attached to repurposing it, but it could be used without purchasing the unit if we needed to.
All right.
Stephanie, is there anything you wanted to add? Did I do okay?
Most importantly, Commissioner Stephanie Teal, the IT Director for the District Court, is that some of our equipment can't be virtualized. We've looked into that in trying to convert our current case management system. That was the first step that we looked at, and it just cannot be virtualized. We would still have to have that server in there. And as for testing and development, we're not going to duplicate a virtualized world just for testing and development. That would be an unsafe expenditure or irresponsible expenditure on that. And we test and develop a lot. That's part of our job.
Okay. Commissioner Archer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. What happens if the air conditioner unit goes out this afternoon?
You lose probably about $1 million worth of equipment.
Now, it has gone down before, hasn't it?
We have 3 air conditioner units to keep up with
Right.
the demand right now.
Are
The
they all
buildings,
are they all
portable-
operational?
Today they are, and yes, I'm on end because of the heat index for today. But yes, if it freezes up, which it usually does about this time of year, I'm usually staying all night here trying to make for sure I have fans and everything like that pointed to the servers to make for sure they stay cool.
And when it thaws, it dumps the water into Division 13, so that's never good.
It's an issue.
Oh.
It's the one that's been identified that we need to replace. at this
Yes,
time.
We think it was purchased probably in early 80s. The manual is 1983, but
I'm going to move approval of and award the bid to McElroy's. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cook. Further discussion. All in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0.
thank you.
Thank you. We have more items.
Item B2, consider approval of request to purchase and install an extension of the raised access floor in the court system's computer room in an amount of $4,240.
This is part of the same project that we've anticipated the need to do this for some time. One of the things that occurs is, I won't go into the details, but this air conditioner moves air underneath these floors. It also accommodates all the wiring and things that need to happen with these servers. So it's definitely a piece of the project that needs to happen. And is part of that $60,000 that's already encumbered.
I'll make a motion to approve the request.
So motion by Commissioner Archer,
Second.
second by Commissioner Cook. Did you have a question?
No.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0.
Item B3, consider approval of request to purchase under the State of Kansas contract a new SAS, a low-cost, high-performance storage solution utilization for the full court case management system in an amount of $9,013.
And I'll definitely need Stephanie if you have questions on this one. It's a little more technical.
And I do have a small typo on that. It's not an SAS, it's a DAS. The acronyms get a little hairy. I think I'm going to start a AAA, an American Against Acronyms organization.
Well, now it makes sense.
Oh, yeah, right? That's- oh, of course.
Move for approval of the contract.
Second.
It's a motion by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Archer to approve the contract. Yes. All in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, ladies.
Item C, emergency management. Number 1, consider approval of request for out-of-state travel for an employee to attend training in an amount of $1,580, which will be reimbursed by the Emergency Management Institute in Emmitsburg, Maryland.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dave Stearns, Emergency Management. This is for one of my staff to travel back to EMI to further a series of educational classes that they do in bits and pieces. There is no cost to our department at all.
There's cost, but it's going to be reimbursed.
Everything gets reimbursed.
Everything gets
Yeah.
reimbursed. Okay. Other questions?
Motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve
Second.
the request by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0.
Item D, Health Agency. Number 1, consider approval of a request to reclassify and fill an Accountant 2 position with a projected fiscal impact for the balance of 2013 of $28,462 and $59,925 for 2014.
Good morning, Commissioners. Alice Weingartner, Shawnee County Health Agency. This is a request to reclassify our Grants and Special Projects Officer position to an Accountant 2 position. It is part of our efforts to centralize our finance operations that will help us in improving efficiencies and also ensuring compliance efforts with the various grants and programs that we administer. The Accountant 2 would mirror a current Accountant 2 position in ensuring that we have regulatory compliance, that we're coordinating and tracking revenue and expenditures for grant reporting, and then assisting with staff training related to the budget process and tracking. Through this reclassification, we're projecting that there would be a cost savings through 2014 of almost $15,000. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Thanks, Alice. This is not a union position.
That is correct.
And you've had conversations with John Thummel.
Yes.
Human Resources as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve and thank Alice for recognizing money-saving opportunities when they become available. Thank you. Motion to approve.
So motion to approve by Commissioner Archer
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Commissioners.
Alice.
Item E, corrections. Number 1, consider request for authorization and execution of Contract C 321-2013, interlocal agreement with the City of Topeka for the use of the fiscal year 2013 Justice Assistance Grant Funds in the amount of $38,239 to be used for hardware and software upgrades related to the department's electronic security system.
Good morning, Commissioners. Eve Kendall, Department of Corrections. I stand before you with the request for participation in the JAG grant. It's a federal grant that we've been able to participate in for the last several years with, in cooperation with the Topeka Police, the Sheriff's Department, and us. We'd like to thank the Sheriff's Department this year if we are able to participate in the grant, that they're allowing us to use the full amount of the county allotment for this upgrade of our equipment. We have a good partnership with them, and we're always, able to help each other out, and we're thankful for them to allow us to have this part this year. I'll try and answer any questions you might have.
I have none. Other questions? I'll
Move for approval of the grant application.
Second.
And actually, is it a grant application, or have we received
Request
the
for-
grant? We've
The-
received the grant.
We've
right?
received a grant. We still have some,
So this is an agreement for use of those funds?
Correct.
Okay.
And I would amend my motion
Okay.
for the use of grant funds.
thank you.
There's a motion by Commissioner Cook and second
I'll still second.
by Commissioner Archer. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Item F, Information Technology. Number 1, consider approval of request to enter into negotiations with Alexander Open Systems to purchase a hardware and software platform to support visualized implementation of some of the fiscal servers currently installed in various locations for an estimated amount of $1,500,000.
Good morning, Commissioners. Pat Oblander with the Information Technology Department. As mentioned in the memo that was sent to you for this agenda item, we are asking for permission to enter into negotiations with Alexander Open Systems to set up a purchase of a virtualization platform for the county. This is a relatively large purchase, obviously, for the county, and represents a major investment of taxpayer dollars. And I'd like to take you through a presentation that explains a little bit about what is this concept of virtualization that we're proposing, and how would it benefit the county, and why is it important that we bring it forward at this point in time when we're struggling for trying to meet all the needs of the county with a restricted number of dollars. First off, I'd like to address the concept of virtualization as a separate concept, just so that everybody understands what we're talking about each time we use the term virtualization. Over the course of the last 15 years to 20 years, Shawnee County, like many other organizations, has created a collection of individual computers represented by this little part of the diagram over here. We've got a lot of different computer systems that are installed in a lot of different locations throughout the county. Each one of these little boxes right here represents a particular server doing a particular job for the county. One might be doing the GIS information systems part for the appraiser's office for the rest of the county. Another one's doing email. Another one's doing the tax implementations, the pieces and parts that we use to collect and distribute taxes. All of those functions are distributed amongst a variety of different machines that are put in a lot of different locations throughout the county. The concept of virtualization is that we would take each of these machines and convert the functions that they take care of into a software program and put it into one location. So we'll take each of those machines, retire them, spin them up as a software program running in one location on one computer. That is fundamentally the concept of virtualization, moving from a physical implementation to a software representation of each of these separate functions. That allows you to run all of those in one location on one computer. There are some very distinct advantages to setting things up in that manner. One really important benefit is reduced power consumption. Originally, we had a variety of machines distributed in a lot of different locations. Each one of those machines has power requirements. There's a power supply that has to be running to drive that processor and the hard drives and all the pieces and parts that are associated with each one. If you convert each of those physical implementations into one computer, now you've removed all those power supplies that are spinning continuously in all those locations and achieve a real reduction in power consumption. Reduce space needs. Now we don't have to have a separate space in each of these buildings to support each one of those physical implementations. We can do it all in one location. Reduce cooling needs. Each one of those machines that's running generates a significant amount of power, of heat load, which requires air conditioning units. We have to have an air conditioning unit in each one of the buildings that we place one of these computers, or one or more of these computers. And we have quite a few buildings where we have situations like that. Centralized management. Since these machines are all distributed in a variety of different locations, there's a lot of times when you have to physically go to the machine to reboot it, to replace components in it, to monitor it, to look to see if any of the lights have come on to indicate a fan failure or anything like that. Many of those things can be handled remotely, but there are quite a few times when you have to physically go to these locations and manage these machines. If they're all virtualized and put into one location, they're much easier to monitor and manage from one central pane of glass. Additionally, once we've virtualized or created software representations of each of these machines, they're much more easy to manage in terms of creating duplicate copies. You can spin up a copy of a software program much more quickly than you can create a copy of a physical implementation of a hardware platform. This can be done in a matter of seconds as opposed to creating a duplicate of another machine that's hardware based. That can take days, if not weeks, to come up with a duplicate of that. And some of the reasons why we want to create duplicates of that is a lot of times you need to patch or update these systems. That's part of a good security practice, is to apply patches as they come out. Well, it's important that you test your patches as best you can before you apply them. It's difficult to do that when you only have one physical representation of a machine. That's your one machine. If you patch it and something goes wrong during that process, you're in a lot of trouble. It would be best to have another copy of that machine running that you would apply the patch to, test it, see if it's working, spin it back up, and if it's okay, then you're good. So with virtualization, those processes become a lot easier to accomplish in a lot shorter periods of time. There's one big obvious disadvantage to this strategy. This introduces a single point of failure. When we had all of our machines distributed throughout the county in smaller platforms, the failure of any one particular system would only affect that particular application. If you put all of your systems into one platform, if that platform fails, then you lose all of those applications. To defend against that, you introduce the concept of replication. In replication, what we'll do is is take this unit that has all of these virtualized implementations of all these individual components and create an exact duplicate on another machine. Now again, these are software representations of all of these applications that we're running, so it's very easy to create a copy of the software representation that's taking care of tax implementation over here, and an exact duplicate over in building number 2. If there's a failure in this hardware platform, or the building is lost due to catastrophe of some sort, this building over here's copy can be brought into production very quickly with a tremendously shorter return to productivity than trying to do it on a hardware-based arrangement. So that's basically the concept of virtualization and how we would use it to achieve some of the benefits that you get through virtualization. Our current environment here in the county is, as I showed you, we have a lot of machines that are distributed in a lot of different buildings. I've only shown 3 because it fits on the diagram, but we have 15, 20 buildings where we have a server room or a server closet where we have computers that are installed in those locations, each of which is spinning away night and day and are critical to the functions of the departments in which they're installed. We also have some major systems that are installed here in the courthouse. I don't really have them represented in any particular way here, but we do have some very large systems that are installed that are basically in the same arrangement. It's a single machine that's serving a single purpose, but it's subject to the same vulnerabilities. If we lose that particular machine, we could spend quite a bit of time trying to get hardware in place to accommodate the replacement and then recover from tape. And hopefully our tapes would contain all the information that we need to get that going. Doing things that way can take quite a bit of time. So there are some pros to this arrangement. As I mentioned earlier, if you do have all of your aids distributed amongst a variety of locations, any particular failure or the loss of a building only impacts the resources that are in that location. But the cons, I think, far outweigh any of the pros of having this arrangement. The cons, as we've mentioned, there's no redundancy. It's difficult to patch and upgrade these systems, and multiple server rooms are required to support them with their attendant power needs and heating, ventilation, and air conditioning needs, and the necessity for having to visit each of those locations to take care of any issues that might come up with those. This is the proposed environment that we'd like to set up. We would like to take each of those, or as many of those systems as we can, and virtualize them, install them on these platforms that would be installed in 2 separate locations in buildings that are widely separated, so that one disaster or natural catastrophe couldn't destroy both of them at the same time. And then achieve all the benefits that we would have through virtualization. It's important to note that, as mentioned earlier, this isn't a panacea. You can't put absolutely everything into a virtualized environment. The county is no different. We do have systems that we would not be able to put into this arrangement for performance reasons or for security reasons. So I don't want everybody to think that if we purchase this, everything's going to be virtualized. That's not the case. We're proposing that we take as many systems as we can and put them into this arrangement. A couple of examples would be public-facing servers that actually are directly connected to the internet. You do not want those to be inside this virtualized platform because that's a beachhead for the nefarious to be able to get in and do things to your system. So you'll keep things outside of the system for security reasons and for performance reasons for some. Now, as time goes by, there's fewer and fewer systems that are being sold that will not work in a virtualized environment. Shawnee County has held off for quite some time for that very reason. It's just taken a while for the virtualization technology to get to the point where the majority of programs that are available will actually run well in that environment. So we're to the point where I think any new systems that we buy would be able to be supported in this environment. So over time, I expect that anything that we buy would wind up functioning in a virtualized environment and then have the benefits associated with being in that arrangement. As a result of implementing the virtualization platforms, I think we could expect to achieve greatly improved reliability and resiliency for public safety systems and for most other critical county systems. There's a lot of things coming together for Shawnee County right now that are pushing us in this direction. One is just the vulnerabilities that we mentioned here. Others are a lot of the systems that we're running right now are reaching end of life. Our mainframe system was last purchased, the last major hardware upgrade was July 5th of 2005. The AS400 platform that we're currently running our public safety system on is being replaced with a new system that the Sheriff's Office has purchased, and we'd like to get moved to a Microsoft platform. Those systems are also of an equivalent age. We have a couple of storage attached networks that are, two of which are out of support because their age is just gotten to the point where the vendors no longer will support them. Two more will be coming up for that same situation in a couple of years. So we have a long laundry list of items that are going to have to be replaced regardless of whether or not we go into this virtualization platform. The costs associated with those are expected to be equivalent to, probably not as great as, but equivalent to purchasing the virtualization platform. So, greatly increased ability to quickly implement COOP plans following a disaster. Last year, the county went through a major exercise in developing a continuation of operations program or plan. Central to those plans is the concept of if we lose a building in Shawnee County due to some natural disaster or man-made disaster, we want to be able to move staff from that location to a different location. Virtualization plays into that very well because we've got copies of all of our major systems in multiple locations. It's much easier to access those resources from various locations than it is if you've lost those to the natural disaster that occurred in the first place. So increased ability to implement our COOP plans is another major benefit. Decreased reliance on tape backup. Currently, we rely on tape backup to recover from a disaster, major loss of equipment or major loss of a building. Tape backups can only be run during certain windows of time, usually at the end of the day or sometime in the middle of the night. If we have a disaster or an equipment failure that occurs towards the end of the day, but before the tape backup has run, we stand a good chance of losing all of the work that was put into a system during that period of time. Tape backups are great, but they don't address that particular eventuality. So a virtualization platform would allow you to have duplicates of what's occurring in two locations in almost real time. So that if we lose a major system in one location, we can fail over to the alternative location with minimal loss of that day's activities. Additionally, tape backups are notorious for failing when you need them the most. It's very difficult to take a copy of every one of your tape backups and test it on a regular basis. Technically, that's what we're supposed to do, but in reality, it's difficult to do that because you don't necessarily have the platform to do a recovery to and test it, and coming up with the amount of staff time that's required to do that on a regular basis is very difficult. So we're relying on a system that is not as good as what we could achieve with a virtualized implementation. More efficient use of staff time. We'll spend a lot less time dealing with supporting individual platforms than we would with a consolidated and virtualized platform. Instead of a lot of different systems, we now have two major ones, each of which is the same make and model. It becomes much easier to support those platforms than a conglomeration of different platforms distributed in a lot of different locations. And then again, at the bottom, decreased cost for power and heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. We expect to see a lot of reductions in cost for the power that's required to run the systems and the necessary cooling for those. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have at this point.
Thanks, Pat. That helped explain it to me at least. Hopefully, we all understand it a little bit better. I believe all the commissioners did receive some correspondence from another vendor that was concerned that maybe they hadn't been given the opportunity to bid on this. And so if you could go through that a little bit about how you
Yes.
came to the conclusion for this vendor.
We have looked at a lot of different platforms that would be or that we would like to implement for the county. One of them that really caught our attention was one that was implemented for the Kansas Eligibility Enforcement Program that was put into production by the state of Kansas. Kansas Department of Health and Environment put that together. The system that they settled on was a V-block system that's produced by VCE. This is a converged infrastructure platform. They went through an RFP process back in early 2012. This system is very, very close to what we would be implementing here in the county. Since the RFP process has already been gone through, I believe that vendors were all given an opportunity to respond to that RFP. We didn't feel it was necessary to repeat the exercise, having had it just occurred as early as 2012. So that's why we're proposing that we would go with the winner of that award.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know if that vendor is in the audience. Okay, and if you want to make any comments, you're sure welcome to make those. You sure do. And just state your name and then make your comments. That'd be fine. Thank you.
Pardon me. Michael Reese here on behalf of ISG Technologies, and John Hickel is here with me as well. And we are aware of the RFP to which they're referring to, and that was, if I'm not mistaken, a two-part RFP. One of it was for the hosting purposes of that, and the other was for the hardware acquisition of that, which is an EMC product, and that's where I believe they got involved with AOS at. Our contention is that we would like the opportunity to come in and visit with the staff over there, Pat and his crew, and talk to them about what they've got, do some studies, preemptive studies on where they're at, what they need, what can be virtualized, and set them up. We have a data center right here in Topeka. We've just invested over $5 million in the Topeka community, just 2 blocks from here, and we're currently working with several other state agencies. And this has been in our wheelhouse. We've been doing this for quite some time now. We've got a network of data centers to where we can do exactly what he's talking about, the replication, backup, hot swap sites, and things along this line. So we would just like to be able to come in, take a look at their overall project, and see how ISG might be able to help work with them, submit some proposals and pricing, and see if we can be competitive for a similar or better project.
A couple of things. You know, the hardware today, I mean, if you go out and buy a computer today, you know that, you know, a few months from now the price is going to go down. That's no different in the storage industry. In the V blocks that he says that you're looking at, that's no different than that. Prices continue to change. The technology increases, the storage increases, and you get better deals all the time. So, you know, a contract from a year ago is probably not valid, I would think, from what you can purchase today. The investment that ISG has made that Mike has referred to is a data center network. Again, $5 million on a 7,000 square foot data center, just a few blocks down. You had an agenda item earlier about a $44,000 purchase for air conditioning. We, as part of our data center network, we become the data center managers. We take care of the power, the UPSs, the generators, the maintenance, and all of that stuff, so that goes away. And we've got a number of customers that have moved into our data center. We have a state agency that has signed contracts and is in our data center here in Topeka right now. They've moved their production environment from a server room that was overtaxed from power and cooling, moved it into our data center. Now, replicating that to another site in Wichita to get it to have some geographical separation there. So, I mean, I commend Pat and his team for looking at this now and moving to virtualization. We've been doing this for about 7 years now with customers, getting them virtualized so that now we can take it one step further and look at moving that into a data center, into a true data center that has the infrastructure in place to keep you operational, keep you functioning. Again, we have 9 locations, 3 of them here in the state, actually 4 here in the state: Kansas City, Topeka, Salina, and Wichita. And this is what we've been doing for our customers for years. And we've got over 200 customers that are part of our data center, that are in part of our data center network that we're providing data center services for. And we've been doing this for over 11 years. Again, with the most recent data center being the one here in Topeka that just opened several months ago. So again, a lot of opportunity. Technology has changed so much that it's important to really look at what options are out there, not just from a production standpoint, but also from a business continuity and a disaster recovery standpoint, because a lot of options are out there, a lot of vendors are out there, and ISG has been doing this for a number of years and have since 1985 or 83 here in Topeka. So we've got a number of satisfied customers that are working this very same thing with.
Okay, all right, thank you. Rich, I'm going to ask you a couple questions up at the podium.
Sure, I'm an expert on virtualization.
Good. This is more in line with bids and provide some guidance to the commission if we have another option out there, and I presume there's more, so I just want to.
I would like an opportunity to
Oh,
address
yeah.
the concerns that they raised about using an offsite data
Yes,
center.
but let's talk about
we can do
bids
that after.
first.
Well, one of the things that we always try to do, and I'm probably speaking a bit for the purchasing department, but I've been here long enough, I feel comfortable doing that, is that we always bid, we always bid, we always bid. And the best thing about the state contract is that's bid.
Right.
But to clear up any inconsistencies, what I usually recommend is that even if we're going to go off the state contract, when you make your motion to buy, you make a motion that we're going to waive the requirements of the purchasing resolution, just in case there's something there that pops up later that we didn't know about. But even our own purchasing resolution makes a tie-in to the state purchasing contract. It's in the purchasing resolution. So you're perfectly within your boundaries to do something like this. Is that your question?
Yes, and if we don't.
If you don't,
then
what?
If we don't enter into negotiations and we open bids, then.
That's always fine.
That's that process then we go through.
Yes.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to make sure we knew our options. Okay, thanks.
I'm disappointed you didn't have any virtualization questions for me.
Sorry.
See if
No,
I can
I'd
take
be
care
able
of
to ask
those.
him until- Go ahead, Pat.
The proposal that these gentlemen were making were the use of an offsite data center. We actually have looked at the viability of using public infrastructure to support our virtualization initiatives. We are constrained to a large degree, though, by the types of systems that we want to virtualize. Some of them have some very, very tight restrictions on what we're allowed to do and where those systems have to physically reside. I don't want to get into details about the specifics of those, but they are in terms of the public safety systems. We are constrained by policy that was written by the people that do audits on our systems and allow us to maintain connectivity to various law enforcement agencies. In order to maintain our ability to access those systems, we have to abide by very strict controls on physical locations of the systems. So that limits us very much in what we're able to do. Now, that doesn't mean that at some point in the future that will not change. Obviously, everything changes with time. And as virtualization and the use of public cloud infrastructure becomes more widely accepted and policies and procedures are put into place to protect data and ensure ability to recover it in the event that an off-site provider goes out of business or something like that, someday in the future we may be able to do that, but we're not at that point right now with the systems that we want to virtualize here in Shawnee County. All of the systems that we have not necessarily are required to be physically on site, but a large portion of those that we have are required to be housed in equipment that's here at our location in physically secured locations. So we did consider the concept, and that's why we went with the direction that we're heading.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
Sure.
Yes. Commissioner Cook?
Mr. Olander, the virtual platform that you're proposing, this was identified in your strategic plan last year, correct?
Yes, sir.
And as part of that, it talked about our current system that we have. We have a lot of single point of failure issues. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Which, in layman terms, if the power goes out, we lose our data.
Yes.
Okay. And when some of our networks that we're currently working with, some of the computing systems, if we were to have a failure, would we be talking about loss of 1 day or multiple days?
It depends on the system that is affected, but there are systems that are not duplicated or replicated on a live basis. But if we lost those, we would stand to lose not only days, but possibly weeks of data. It's entirely possible. Now, to be fair, we've been in this situation for a long time. This isn't something that's new. It's just something that we've had to live with because there wasn't a better alternative. We're now at the point where virtualization offers a better alternative, and that's why we're moving at this point to get into that better world.
Okay. Now, you had used the word cloud earlier. Is this a cloud computing system?
It could be construed as what would be called a private cloud, but the term cloud is a real vague piece of terminology that describes a lot of different arrangements. So I try to avoid the term cloud. Typically when it's bandied about, it's in reference to using cloud technology that's available via public providers, off-site storage of your data. A private cloud can be assembled that gives you the ability to rapidly spin up resources and allow people in other departments to spin up a server without having to go through a lot of parts ordering or provisioning. That's the concept of a private cloud. The system that we're proposing to purchase could be called a private cloud. And as far as expandability of the system, what we are proposing is the foundational system. It's scalable. We would be purchasing something that would be capable of having additional modules plugged into it to increase the compute capacity and the storage capacity as the needs of the county changed and increased. So it does have the ability to be scaled up as needs require.
The Shawnee County Sheriff's Office purchased software, and they've been waiting on what this commission would choose to do with this virtual platform, have they not?
That is correct.
And part of why that's taken a while for this proposal to come before the commission is there was a number of agencies that you had to work with and get approval from, is that correct?
That is correct.
Including the FBI, KBI, and other law enforcement agencies.
That is correct.
And so Shawnee County is really a forerunner, and this is a monumental proposal for us, is it not?
Yes, I would say.
Because it
would be
incorporates
a major change in the way we do business.
It incorporates both law enforcement and public government into one network or platform.
Yes.
And so that was the reason why we had to go through the FBI and the KBI.
Yes.
Okay. And so this is something that we should be looking at, a opportunity to be a forerunner in this area. Correct?
The term forerunner is something that gives me a bit of pause. I don't think it's the responsibility of government to be the forerunner in implementing things, but we are breaking new ground in combining all of the elements of the county into one platform. I don't believe anybody else has gotten to the point where they're doing that yet, but we have worked very closely with the people that would audit our systems and verify whether or not we're in compliance with their policies. We did go through a very lengthy and detailed and extensive procedure to ensure that we would be meeting their requirements.
And I understand that while you may not be able to quantify exact dollar amounts, this has a cost savings for the county as a potential.
There's a potential there, but it's difficult to ascertain because there's going to be some systems that we retire, but we don't know exactly when we're going to be able to retire those. So depending on how soon we can retire those affects how quickly we could expect to begin receiving benefit from, or savings from retiring those systems. So it's difficult to exactly quantify exactly how much would be put back into the retirement of the debt on this.
Further questions? No. Commissioner Archer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's important that we realize we're talking about $1.5 million.
Yes, sir.
A lot of money. In 4 days, we start hearings on the budget for 2014. I think it's important that we make this project part of the budget discussion of 2014, where we see how it fits in the overall scope of where we're going financially. I just don't know why in the world we have to approve this today before we talk about any other requirements that we need to fund for law enforcement, Parks and Rec, District Attorney, all the things that need our support. Why are we have to make a decision of $1.5 million today instead of having that in the budget context for 2014 and beyond? Thank you, Madam Chair.
In reply to that concern, I would put out there that the Sheriff's Office has a major project that they have expended funds for. It's the migration from the existing platform that they're using for the records management system that supports the Sheriff's Office, the 911 Dispatch Center, the Topeka Police Department, the Fire Department, and a variety of smaller communities whose officers use that system to access records that are used in law enforcement. That process started last year and was approved early this year to move forward. There is a hardware requirement to support that platform. We have to either purchase a collection of servers that would provide a virtualization platform for those systems to reside on for just specifically that system. And we would like to get that going as soon as possible so that we can begin taking advantage of the benefits for which we've already paid and are being charged maintenance on. So there's a real impetus to get a platform in place to support that project so that we can begin completing the conversions that are necessary to get the data moved off of the old servers onto the new platform as soon as possible. So we do have a financial incentive to get a platform in place. If we do not do a virtualization platform for the county as a whole, we may be in a situation where we'll have to go ahead and get a separate platform purchase for the sheriff or for the Microsoft platform for the records management system, and then later come back and try to do the rest of the county. I think it's important that we try to do as good a job as we can of getting these combined so that we can take advantage of efficiencies of scale. And I think it's important that we do it as soon as possible so that we can begin the implementation process for this major public safety initiative and get it done as soon as we can. That would be my position on that.
Well, and I think, really, I mean, I'm the one who's been here with you the longest. I know we've been talking about this for a number of months. It was identified in the strategic plans. It was identified in the budget that if you make this investment, that you quite likely won't have as much investment from the capital outlay portion of our budget. That this will help in our continuity of operations. That's where it was identified. I know, Pat, that you have looked at the Sheriff's Office, and they're going to participate in $160,000 of it for this year. Capital outlay would be the source of funds for this project, and that we would space this out, and it would be an investment into the next 4 years. This year, 5 years total.
5 years total.
I guess I see this as a need because it impacts all of our departments, and you do. Your department, it impacts everyone's abilities to perform their job.
Yeah, we do have arrangements that we may be able to put together that would allow financing over 5 years, which would break up the payments into approximately $300,000 for each of the 5 years to come out of capital outlay. The Sheriff's Office has encumbered about $160,000, I believe, from 2012 to put towards the first year's installment on that purchase because of the fact that that's the money that was encumbered to supply or to provide the hardware platform specifically for the records management system. they're willing to put that money towards the first installment on the combined virtualization platform.
Okay. Commissioner Archer, do you have a follow-up?
Thank you. Follow-up. So if I understand you, if we don't pass this today, if we wait a few weeks, we won't be able to fulfill our commitment to the law enforcement agencies? I guess I just don't understand what a few weeks difference is going to make when we look at this expenditure in the full context
I understand
of
what you're
all
saying.
of the requirements for Shawnee County in the business we're in over the next few years.
Yeah, a difference of a few weeks probably isn't going to make or break the
Okay.
situation. I was thinking that you were saying not to do anything until 2014.
No, I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is, and I think we will probably move forward with this project, but I'd like to see it, again, in the context of the total budget that is going to be required for 2014 and beyond. I would make a motion that we defer consideration of this until it's brought forward in the 2014 budgeting process.
I would like to make the suggestion, all we're asking for is approval to enter into negotiations with AOS at this point in time. Would it be feasible to go ahead and approve the request to enter into negotiations, with the idea being that nothing would be, the commission
final
would not be committed to anything until we brought back the proposal from the result of the negotiations?
Well, the item on the agenda says authorization and execution of a contract. So I assume we would have to amend as going forward. And,
No, it doesn't, that even, enter into negotiation is all.
interest and
F.
execution of contract.
You might be reading G1 wrong.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, I apologize. Negotiation, all right, I apologize.
Might have been my voice.
Thank you for the correction. So if we enter into negotiations, that doesn't commit us to anything at this point?
That doesn't commit us to anything.
Okay.
That just gives me the ability to create a statement of work or a contract that we would, that would contain pricing information, the commitments from Alexander Open Systems for support, a breakdown basically in the cost of the project, how it would be implemented, the timelines, et cetera. And then we would bring that back to the commission for final
final
approval.
approval.
Yes.
For final approval of the
Yes.
contract.
Okay.
You
I
didn't make
misread
a-
that, yeah.
You didn't make a motion to defer.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve instead.
I'll second the motion to approve the proposal for entering in negotiations.
And I do want to check at this time, there's a motion and a second, but are we waiving the purchasing resolution? And at this time, we do not have to do that, it's just a negotiation. Okay, all right, thank you, Rich. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you,
Pat.
Commissioners.
Item G, Parks and Recreation. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C 322-2013 with Bob's Janitorial for janitorial services at the Shawnee County North Annex, Shawnee County Elections Office Annex, all health agency buildings and offices, Parks and Recreation Administrative Offices, Courthouse, Law Enforcement Center, and the Law Enforcement Center at a monthly cost of $12,362.28, effective July 3rd, 2013 through December 31st, 2014.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Knight, Parks and Recreation. I promised my new friend Brant, who's here working on his merit badge for the Boy Scouts. He had a very good question during that last topic. He said, does Mr. Eckert think that virtualization is playing solitaire on his cell phone? And I said, that's probably even a stretch. So he's kind of disappointed that you guys didn't follow up on that question. In all, this item, Commissioners, I think you're aware, nearly a month ago, we stopped the services for janitorial contracts for the locations listed in this memo. Since that time, Mr. Bertles, who approximately a year and a half ago not only took on a consolidated Parks Department, also took on building maintenance, which included the courthouse, Shawnee North Annex, all of this type of stuff. I want to make sure that he gets the accommodations that's coming to him for doing this, because what you don't know there is when the bids were selected by the lowest bid. We went to the second lowest bid contractor, and Mr. Bertles was able to negotiate that down to the same price. There will be no net fiscal impact to Shawnee County. There was no reason for the second bidder to come down to this first price other than Mr. Bertles' arm twisting. Be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Do we have a representative from Bob's Janitorial here today?
Do we have any representatives?
Not today? Okay, all right.
This would start immediately, the day after the other contract ends.
Move for approval of execution of contract.
Motion by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor of the motion say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Item H, Public Works Solid Waste. Number 1, consider approval of resolution number 2013-55, authorizing the placement and maintenance of no parking signs for the Lake Sherwood Club's July 4th activities.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Block with Public Works and Solid Waste. This is a Public Works item. This is has become or has been an annual request from the Sherwood Lake Club, in which they have 4th of July activities each year, in which I believe they have, I think, a parade and some fireworks. To help promote public safety during that time, each year they've asked us to set up temporary no parking signs from, I believe 4 o'clock on the 3rd, and then have them taken down on the 5th. Since no parking signs are a regulatory sign, we need to do a resolution each year to allow this to happen, and that is what is before you today, and is our recommendation that it be approved. So if there's any questions regarding this, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Thanks, Tom. Any questions, concerns?
Motion to approve.
There is a motion to approve by Commissioner Archer.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed no. Motion carries 3-0. Thanks,
you.
Tom.
Item I, Commission. Number 1, consider appointment of Larry Wilson to the Community Action Board as the at-large position.
And Commissioners, this is an at-large position, so it has to be an appointment of the commission. Larry Wilson had been employed with Community Action for a number of years, and now he serves in a volunteer capacity on that board. And I did check with the director and several members of the committee, and they didn't see any reason why he should not continue, but it is up to our discretion.
Move to reappoint.
There's a motion to reappoint by
Second.
Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed no. Motion carries 3-0, and we thank Larry for his service this time. Next item, please.
Item 5, Administrative Communications. Number 1, update on the Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative and the Topeka Youth Project corrections.
Good morning, Commissioners. Angela McCarty with the Shawnee County Department of Corrections. I have just a few things to give you, just so I can give you a brief update on JDAI.
Great, thanks.
As you know, Shawnee County, we have been a Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative, which is JDAI for short. We've been a site with the Annie Casey Foundation. The state of Kansas is a state site, with Juvenile Justice Authority being the oversight on that. We've been a site since the very early parts of 2011. We've had lots of talks for 2 years prior to that, but we officially became a site in 2011. So just kind of want to give you a quick update of what we've been doing since then. Annie Casey, they have 8 core strategies that we are constantly supposed to be working on. One of the first ones that we have implemented is collaboration. Late part of 2011, we formed our collaboration and we meet every month. We have just recently, over the last 2 months, combined our current collaboration, our executive committee, with our Juvenile Correctional Advisory Board. So we're one larger collaborative now. It just seemed to be more efficient because the same people that were on that committee also go to JCAB meetings. So we've been doing that. Our data committee, we have a data committee that meets every other month, and some of the things that we're looking at, we have done a lot of data collection over the last few years just on our detention population data. This year, we began working with court services and community corrections and helping them create data collection structure for them to really look at their caseloads. Why are they violating juveniles and sending them to detention? That's a big one because that currently is still our highest reason for juveniles coming to detention, our probation violations, which are typically technical violations. So it might be just violations of regular conditions, house arrest violations, curfew violations, maybe not reporting or dirty UAs, those types of things. They are clearly our highest population still. One of the things that we have seen, we created a statewide juvenile detention risk assessment working with JJA, and we implemented that in October 17th of 2012, and since the time that we've implemented that, it's more objective than the instrument that we had previously. Our detention population has drastically dropped. This time last year, our detention population, we were averaging about 58 juveniles. Right now, we're at 40 juveniles, so that's dropped tremendously. Years prior to us being a JDAI site, we're licensed for 75 kids, and we were at 75 kids. We were averaging between 68 to 75 youth in our facility. So just over the last couple of years, we've drastically reduced our population, which makes it a lot easier for us to manage, a lot less operational costs for us at this point, so that helps. Also, we've created a alternatives to detention work group, and with that work group, some of the things they're currently working on is creating a plan to look at possibly doing electronic monitoring with youth again. We used to have it, I'm told, years prior, but it went away because of cost, and then we're trying to show now that if we use it on a specific target group of youth, that it would be more cost effective than housing them in detention. We get a lot of youth that come into detention for sanction house, so they do 2 days at a time, but that's a cost, and it usually is because they didn't go to school or they had tardies at school, those types of things. So these aren't youth that are going out and committing new offenses. They're coming in on new offenses. It's typically technical violations. Also, we've just begun early, very preliminary talks. We just met for the first time last week to talk about possibly developing an evening reporting center for youth that are typically on probation, and so that if they're out committing technical violations, that might be on their graduated sanctions grid. They may have to report to an evening reporting center for a couple of weeks. But again, it's very early talks. The idea behind JDAI is that if you get these, if you create a continuum of alternatives in your community, that you're able to repurpose detention staff because you're lowering your detention populations, and you're able to repurpose staff into more community-based alternatives. Maybe creating like a community supervision team, so forth, to work with court services or community corrections with supervising youth in the community. And the other thing is we have created a team for conditions of confinement. They've been trained on, there's a whole list of standards that Annie Casey has created with the Youth Law Center. And we will be doing a self-assessment with this team of our juvenile detention center to see how compliant we are with those standards. And again, that will help us because we plan on looking towards going to ACA accreditation next year with our juvenile detention center. And these standards are basically set at ACA standards or higher. They're considered best practice all over the country. Since we are a site, we're obligated to do the self-assessment, so we're welcome to it. So we will be doing that actually starting July 29th in our facility. Again, I just always like to remind everybody, and I'll periodically provide updates to you guys as we're moving forward. We have been doing this for a couple of years. Feels like a lot longer. But it is a collaborative community effort. It's not just a detention issue or a detention program. It's not just a program either. And I like to always tell everybody it's really a marathon, not a sprint, because it's going to take several years. A lot of the sites that have been doing this for over 20 years, they've been doing it for over 20 years. So it's not like they just created something and moved on. So it's something we're constantly working on. That's all I have on that. So I will answer any questions. Oh, we created those pamphlets to kind of pass out to people that when we're trying to get more members into our collaborative or even just on sub work groups, it's a lot easier for me to talk about that pamphlet than all the other stuff we've been doing. So that was something the collaborative created. So if you have any questions about where we're moving with that.
Great work.
Thank you.
Do you have something else
I
to cover
do.
there? That's okay.
Yeah, the Topeka Youth Project. We have had that program in our facility for the last, I think you signed the contract earlier the year, but they've been coming into our facility. We've had them in April and May. We've served 11 youth for that. It's very limited to the kids that we can provide that service to. The program requires them to be either 16 or 17. I think their age group is 16 to 20, but we only have 16 to 17. Also, they like to have youth that are close to being released, so that's kind of a challenge for us because we don't always know when the youth are going to be released. So we work really hard trying to find the right target for them. But we've served 11 youth, and I know that they've had 2 that have completely gone through their whole program, even outside of the facility, and they have 1 youth that's actually working for them in their office. So, so far so good. That's where we're at right now. But 11 youth, we're going to try to have a female group this month, and that did work out because we had 5 females for them, and 3 of them got out yesterday. So now they're down to 2, or Tuesday. So they're down to 2, so that wasn't really effective for them to come in and do a program for 2 youth.
Angela, this might be a question for Brian too, but do you anticipate that project to continue and for that funding to be associated with the jail?
Brian Cole, Department of Corrections, excuse me, could you say that again?
I said, do we anticipate for that funding and that program to continue with the jail?
Yes, and, we're going to, one of the things that, as Angela talked about, is that we want to make sure that it is cost-effective to be able to spend that money.
Right.
And we've already met with them, letting them know that we want to make sure that it's reaching out to as many of our youth as possible. If we don't see it's cost-effective, we may have to discontinue it, but we will have the funding at the jail to be able, if we see this as effective. It is a good program, and we have seen some benefits, but we want to make sure we're reaching as many of our juvenile detention offenders and the citizens when they get out as well. So we will continue to analyze that, but if we see the benefit, we will continue that, and we have the money.
Okay.
When that's paid out of the inmate benefit.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
I think my only concern, and we talked about this yesterday, would be that as our detention population lowers with JDAI, the hopes are that those kids that are being unnecessarily detained now, like truancy kids, runaway kids, and probation violation kids, the more population you're going to, most of the kids, your population are going to be felony offenders, kids that are at risk to public safety and risk to failing to appear.
Right.
So those are kids that don't typically meet the criteria of their program.
Right.
So that's the only challenge I would see.
And we'll continue to analyze
Yeah.
the cost effectiveness of it.
Good work.
Thank you.
Questions or comments?
Just keep up the good work.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and thank you for the updates. That's important. Next item, please.
Item 6, executive session.
You want to let Dave talk?
Oh, Dave, I thought you were lining up for, it is under administrative communications.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yes, that's
Stand
right.
corrected.
Dave Sturms, Emergency Management,
Dave.
just wanting to make the commission aware that once again this year, we do have the comfort trailer at Country Stampede. And I will have 2 staff at absolutely no cost to Shawnee County there, other than, other than the fuel to drive back and forth, which basically after today, they pretty much stay there the whole time. Our equipment is not for use for Country Stampede or the patrons. What we're there for is that for the support and assistance of the sheriff's office there. We provide the comfort trailer for them to be able to take showers and have a nice air-conditioned bathroom for the emergency workers. This year, in addition to that, we are also doing the rapid tag system and the accountability, and again, helping us with our practice and continued use and training of other agencies on how the tracking system works, so that as the emergency responders are coming in and out, my staff will be working with them on keeping track. So again, we're not supporting Stampede, we're not there for the concerts, we're there actually on the outside fringes working with the sheriff.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions for Dave? No? Okay, thank you. And Tom, I think there's someone else lined up.
Okay. I have to see if I can get the board turned on. No.
Can I ask your name, please?
Candace Mearpool with Shawnee County 4-H with Research and Extension.
Okay.
And I practiced with this yesterday and it was
Okay.
on. So, see how to turn it on.
I'm sure Eckert can fix it.
Which button? Okay, I have a really cute slideshow. Oh, there. Yay. And to respect the commissioner's time, I will just talk over the slideshow, but that way you can look at something more interesting. Let me turn this down. So to update on the programming that the 4-H department is doing this summer, I would like to report to you about summer camp. This year we had 59 youth and 7 counselors from Shawnee County attend summer camp, and we had a very successful time, meaning no campers left early, and we brought the same 59 home that we took. Shawnee County 4-H offers many camping opportunities for Shawnee County youth, and a lot of people think, you know, summer camp is fun, mini vacation, kind of just for fun. Well, camp is fun, but there are reasons that we do it. One of the core things that we try to teach in 4-H is independence. So what better way than to try to instill that in youth than to put them in a new living group situation, away from their parents, but with caring mentors guiding them along the way. It's stressful for kids. The first night, there's a little bit of homesickness. There can be some tears. But by the second night, I know my cabin was all past that. They were too exhausted to be missing home. Also at camp, youth get what they need to develop physically. Fresh air, exercise, and activities that don't revolve around a screen. We literally unplug the kids for 4 days and 3 nights. Youth get to learn what they're good at camp. There's an activity for every child to be successful at Rock Springs. They come home with a sense of pride that they were either the fastest on the ropes course, or they correctly identified the most trees during the horticulture lessons, or they had the best belly flop at the belly flop contest. Lastly, camp is a place to belong. Along with learning how to be independent, youth are learning how to function with new peers, camp counselors who are acting as their guides, and that is an important thing to learn. We had about 400 youth at camp this year with our camp group. Shawnee County camps with Saline, Ottawa, Marion, McPherson, Butler, Sedgwick, and Ellsworth counties. So our 59 added to all those other counties to fill our camp group for the week. Other opportunities for youth other than county camp at Rock Springs, we had Discovery Days at the end of May, which is for junior high and high school age youth held on K-State campus. So again, after they have done camp, there is an opportunity for youth to practice all those skills again. And then we had a day camp the week before county camp at our office. It was a tech camp where children learned about robotics. It was open to ages grades 5th through 8th, and they got to build catapults, toothbrush robots, and Lego robots. We had a speaker from the K-State competitive robotics team, and the kids were all very excited to ask the expert questions. I said throughout the camp, write your questions down. We'll have an expert on Thursday. The tech camp, as well as these other opportunities, are open to non-4-H enrolled youth. So we did have 3 from tech camp that were not enrolled 4-Hers, and we did have, I don't know how many of the 59 we had, but we had some non-4-Hers go with us to Rock Springs as well. So this is the new pool that they raised money, the 4-H Foundation has been raising money for, and this was the first summer the kids got to swim in it. And it is a fantastic facility. They made it ADA compliant with 0 depth entry. So that's a little scary for 7-year-olds to jump into a 3-foot pool at the shallow end. So it's very friendly to all youth now. The snack bar is always popular. Do you have any questions about our summer programming?
No, I don't. I talked to a couple of parents, though. They were sitting there waiting for their kids to get off the bus. And they were like, yeah, we haven't talked to them. They've been completely unplugged. I mean, no cell phones.
We don't even
no
allow our
anything.
counselors to bring cell
Yeah,
phones.
that'd be kind of nice.
And frankly, even if they did sneak one in, you have to climb a small Kansas mountain to
You
get
do.
reception out
You
there.
do.
So
You do. That's
to,
right. I
to
do
call my
remember that.
kids every night, I had to trek up this hill.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. We've got great food at Rock Springs as well. So thank you so much for the update. Tom?
Commissioners, Tom Block, Public Works and Solid Waste. With the holiday week coming up next week, I just wanted to let our solid waste customers know that we will have a little bit of a change in schedule for a couple of our days of our customers. Monday and Tuesday customers will be no change. They will get their regular trash and recycling picked up on their regular days. Collection for folks who normally have it on Wednesday will be moved up to Tuesday, and those who have collection on Thursday will be moved up to Wednesday, and then Friday will be no change for those customers. So since we're moving them up, if we're moving them back a day, they put out on their regular day and they miss it, that's fine because it'll still be there the next day. But I want to make sure, since we're asking them to move it up a day, that they get it for Wednesday and Thursday customers. So, and I'll probably mention this again Monday.
Okay,
So, thank you.
good. Anyone else for administrative communications? Okay, executive, next item.
Executive session?
I believe we do have a need for executive session for a period not to exceed 20 minutes. 15 minutes for purposes of consult with legal, employee-employer negotiations, and non-elected personnel. We'll try 15 and see. There we go. We do have a work session scheduled.
And Madam Chair, I know that we have people here for the work session as well.
So we'll be conscious of that when we're in executive session. So 15 minutes, that's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. We are back in session for the regular commission meeting. No action to be taken at this time as a result of executive session, and we are adjourned for the commission meeting, okay? And I know we have a work session for Holiday Park, and we also have a department head meeting. So we'll go ahead and do the workshop. How much time do you need?
Depends on public comment. I wouldn't think we'd need more than 10 minutes.
Okay.
5 minutes probably at the most.
Okay, and I figured we'd probably have about a half-hour department head meeting, so we should be within the 12 o'clock